Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to another true crime episode. In today's story, I don't know if this guy was just good at covering his tracks, which I don't think he was, or maybe he was just lucky because this guy had too much time to do way too much. He apparently was good looking and used his good looks and high IQ to lure his victims. Supposedly, he was charming, intelligent, and even appeared on a national television show. You heard correctly. But behind his charismatic smile lurked a sinister predator. He was a ruthless serial killer and convicted sex offender whose crime spans between 1977 and 1979. His story is one of deception, horror, and a shocking number of victims. Who exactly are we talking about? Let's get into it. But wait, before we get into the story, I want to remind you guys to hit your subscribe button and your notification bell so that you always know when I upload. Okay, great. Back to the story. Rodney James Alcala was born on August 23rd, 1943 in San Antonio, Texas, and was the third of four children born to a Mexican-American couple. Oh, Lord Jesus, here comes the butchering of the name. Raul Alcala Bucor and Ana Maria Gutierrez. I said that right. His childhood was marked by instability when his dad abandoned the family. So what happened was when Rodney was about 8 years old, the dad, Raul, I don't know, moved the family to Mexico. And then for whatever reason, 3 years after they got there, he jetted. He was like, peace out, homies, sayonara, goodbye. And he was never seen again. So you can only imagine what the family must have gone through. Shortly after the dad abandoned them in 1954, when Rodney was about 11 years old, Maria, the mother, moved herself and the three children back to the United States of America, and they settled in Los Angeles. Already, we were not off to a great start at all with the dad abandoning the family. And apparently that does wonders on a little boy's psyche. And I want to say hence why we're here, because, I wonder what would have happened, how Rodney would have turned out had his dad not abandoned them. And I guess we'll never know now. Rodney was described as a smart little cookie and was a superstar in school and at home. Homeboy had a high IQ, went to private school where he was involved with the yearbook committee and played on the track and cross-country teams. So all in all, Homeboy was seemingly a normal dude, but beneath the surface, a darkness was brewing, as it always is with these sick folks, of course. Now, Rodney here appeared to be on the right path, graduating high school at 17 and joining the U.S. Army right after in 1961. Yeah, it looked like he was on the right path. However, things did not pan out for the guy. His commanding officer would say that he was manipulative, vindictive, and insubordinate, and he was disciplined several times for assaulting young women. Yeah. So not good at all, Rodney. In 1964, Rodney had some sort of a nervous breakdown. He went AWOL and he left Fort Bragg, North Carolina, which is where he was stationed at the time, and went back to California to stay with his mom. Ultimately, he was discharged from the military after he was diagnosed with a myriad of things, such as antisocial personality disorder, narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, and malignant narcissism with psychopathy and sexual sadism comorbidities. Yeah, that was a mouthful. And a lot. That is a lot, okay? And this is the part where I get upset, because he was diagnosed with all these things, I want to say around 1964, 1965, because I don't know how long it took them to diagnose him after he went AWOL. Now, why was this man allowed to roam freely? Because I couldn't find anywhere that he was on any medication or that he made any trips to the mental hospital or nothing. All they did was discharge him from the military after he was diagnosed because, you can't have mental health issues and serve in the military. Well, at least it can't be on paper. But we know these folks can be cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. Not all of them, but most of them are a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs because they done seen some stuff. They done had to do some stuff, and they seen some stuff. So they're not right. Okay. They grapple with some stuff. But yeah, all that happened was that he got discharged from the military and nothing else. Had we done our due diligence, these people would not have suffered the fate that they did at the hands of this guy, because y'all let him roam freely after y'all knew he was nuts, basically. And it is so frustrating because it's not a back in the day type of situation. You know, I wish we could be like, oh, all this happened because it was back in the days. At least we've made advancements now and this is not happening anymore. But that's not the case, because remember the guy Wade Wilson from Florida that I covered recently? His adoptive parents knew something was wrong with him. They took him to see doctors. They begged doctors to pay more attention to him and like do something because they knew he was acting funny. But they did nothing. They did nothing. They dropped the ball and he ended up killing those people. And he was just sentenced to death. I believe it was like 2023 or 2024. So this is not a back in the day situation. And that's what pisses me off. We're still doing the same thing and people are still losing their lives because we're reckless out here. Do better. Anyways, moving on. After his discharge from the military, he enrolled at UCLA where he earned a degree in arts, but those things that he had going on in his brain would mark the beginning of his descent into violence. In 1968, Rodney lured an 8-year-old little girl into his car. The little girl was walking to school when Rodney offered her a ride. She originally said no, but then he told her, "Hey, I know your parents." And that's when she got in the car. An eyewitness saw what was happening and alerted the police, but by the time they got there, he had already fled the scene. Ugh. They found the little girl inside his apartment in a pool of her own blood. She had been brutally beaten and assaulted, but thank God she was still alive. However, she was in a coma for 32 days and spent months in recovery. Poor child. Can you imagine the trauma, the fear? I can only, oh my gosh, I have an 8-year-old son and I can't even fathom that they're babies. That is a child. What a sick dude. To avoid being captured, because there was an eyewitness that saw him, like I said before, and he knew that it would just be a matter of time before they caught up with him, Rodney decided to leave California and go to New York, where he enrolled at NYU as a film studies student by the name of John Berger, Berger. Remember that spelling for later. And while in New York, Rodney just couldn't help himself. Shortly after he got there, 23-year-old flight attendant Cornelia Crilly had just moved into a new apartment in New York City, and she accepted help from Rodney. It wasn't specific whether she asked him for help or he offered to help, but bottom line is he was helping her move some furniture into the new apartment, and things just didn't go well for her. She was found raped and strangled to death in her apartment on June 12, 1971. Police didn't have any leads, and it would take them a long time before they would solve her case, which I guess made Rodney feel very lucky and untouchable because he didn't try to hide. A few months later, in 1971, he went and got a new job at a New Hampshire arts camp called Camp New Beginning, where he worked as a counselor for children using yet a different name, but pretty much the same really, except for one letter. Instead of calling himself John Berger, Berger, he called himself John Berger, Burger. Wow. For a high IQ dude, I don't think that was very clever. But what do I know? I'm no serial killer with a high IQ. How will they ever know, right? How will they know? Little did Rodney know that he had earned himself a spot on the FBI's top 10 most wanted fugitives list. And while he was at that camp, 2 of the kids noticed that he had a photo on an FBI poster that was at the post office. Kids snitched on him, and in August of 1971, he was arrested and brought back to California to stand trial for the 8-year-old little girl that he had assaulted in 1968. By the time they got him back to California, the little girl's parents had relocated the entire family to Mexico, and they refused to let the little girl testify against Rodney at the trial. And without their star witness, prosecutors really couldn't charge Rodney with rape and attempted murder. Instead, they had to charge him with child molestation, which was a lesser charge, and he was sentenced to only 3 years in prison. The end. we're here. So not the end. I wish it was the end. I wish he didn't get a light sentence and didn't get out. I wish the parents would have allowed the girl to testify so that they could put him away for good. But I also understand them because I don't know if I would have the heart to put my 8-year-old, well, she was a little girl at the time when that happened, but she was like a little bit older. She was around 11, I would say, when, they brought Rodney back. But she was 8 when the whole thing happened. And I don't know if I would have wanted to have my daughter relive this nightmare. I don't know. So I can't really fault them for not wanting her to testify. But I wish, then he could have been put away for good. But unfortunately, that's not what happened. And less than 2 months after he was released, he was arrested again and convicted for assaulting a 13-year-old little girl. What was wrong with this guy? I couldn't find how long he was sentenced for this particular crime, but he was paroled after serving 2 years. And upon his release in 1977, he was to register as a SEX offender, which is good, I guess. But guess what? His dumb parole officer did. He allowed this man, this monster, to travel from one state to another, knowing that he was a flight risk and a registered SEX offender. I don't understand how someone can just be this careless. And because he allowed that to happen, the parole officer, that is, 23-year-old Ellen would lose her life. She disappeared shortly after Rodney got to Manhattan. She was last seen at her New York apartment on July 15th, 1977. And according to what she wrote in her little notebook or planner, it said that she was meeting up with somebody named John Berger the day that she disappeared. Okay. And we all know John Berger is Rodney. Ugh. This parole officer should just be hung. I'm just saying. Anyways, in the middle of him unaliving people, that man was so sick, okay, because he was such a psycho. He took a little break and participated in a dating show called The Dating Game, and he even won the show. That is crazy. He won the show, but the girl was like, I ain't gonna go nowhere with you. You're a little creepy. I was like, good for you, girl. He is a creep. He's beyond creepy. He's a murderer, okay? So good for her. She did not mess with him and not saved her life, because who knows what could have happened if she went on a date with him. After the show, Rodney just returned to his regularly scheduled program, which was to unalive people. And, he would continue to do that by posing as a photographer and luring young people with the promise of professional photo sessions. On November 9, 1977, 18-year-old Jill was found on a dirt path near LA. She was found naked from the waist down, and she had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled to death. Ay, ay, ay. About a month later, on December 16, 1977, a 27-year-old nurse, Georgia, was found deceased in her Malibu apartment. So, in her case, she had dropped off a friend the night before, and when she didn't show up for work the next day, that friend and her co-workers alerted the police. I'm guessing it was not like Georgia to, not show up for work and not call. And when the police got to her place, they did find signs of forced entry, and sadly they found her body naked on her bathroom floor. Again, she had been sexually assaulted. Her skull was bashed in. She was strangled, and her genitals were mutilated. Oh man. They were able to collect DNA on the scene, which would come in handy later on in solving her case. This man just didn't know how to stop. On June 24th, 1978, 32-year-old Charlotte was found in the laundry room of her apartment complex. She also had been sexually assaulted, beaten, and strangled to death. They were able to collect DNA sample at the scene, which again would come in handy. On February 14th, 1979, Rodney picked up a 15-year-old hitchhiker, Monique, took her to his apartment where he raped her, and then after that they went back to his car. I don't know if, he forced her, which I'm guessing he did. She must have been so scared, and just went along with him. Went back to his car, took her to a location where he took pictures of her in her underwear, and he also took pictures of him assaulting her. Oh my gosh, what a psycho. Graping her, and he then tied her up and gagged her as he proceeded to continuously assault her and sodomize her. And as if that wasn't enough, for whatever the cycle's reason was, he took a rock and just bashed her head with it. Oh my goodness. But by some kind of a miracle, Monique escaped while Rodney stopped to go pee at a gas station on the ride back, and she went straight to the police. Rodney was arrested, but his mother posted his bail. Oh my gosh. I mean, I can't really blame the mother, but did she really not know what he was out here doing? Like, if your child is accused of doing something, did you really not notice any signs? But then again, as a mother, would she be able to like let him rot in jail? I don't know, but I can't really blame the mother for posting his bail because it's her son. But why didn't they hold him without bail? He already has a history of doing stuff to people. Why would he not be held without bail? I don't know the law, but as many arrests as he has had, and him being a registered sex offender, I was expecting him to be held without bail, but what do I know? But anyways, that's not what happened. And because that didn't happen, on June 13, 1979, 21-year-old Jill Marie would receive her fate. She went to a game the night before and did not show up for work the next day, so her co-workers all alerted the police to do a wellness check on her. And when they got to her place, they found signs of forced entry, and again, sadly, she was found deceased on her bathroom floor. She had been sexually assaulted, bitten, beaten, and strangled. Now, her assailant climbed through a broken window, and they did collect blood evidence at the scene. Thank God. Whew, this guy. Sadly, Rodney would do this over and over and not get caught. And sometimes he would toy with his victims, like he would strangle them until they lose consciousness, and then he would slap them back into consciousness, or he would just, hang out and wait for them to come to. And he would do that over and over until he would like end their life completely. That's just sick. That is just so sick, and that's just way too much. That's doing too much, Ultimately, no one knows the exact number of victims, although he was only charged with 5 of the murders. Some believe that he may have unalived around 50 people, and others think that the number may have been as high as 130 lives. That is crazy. That's nuts. Rodney would strike for the last time on June 20th, 1979, when a 12-year-old little girl disappeared from riding her bike home from ballet class. Her body was found 12 days later, all decomposed and whatnot, and she had been beaten, raped, and stabbed with a knife. Oh my gosh, 12 years old. Ugh. Her friends told the police that a stranger had approached them and offered to take pictures of them, and they were able to give a really good description, and police had a sketch made from the description. And Rodney's parole officer was, remember, the dum-dum that let him travel from state to state even though he was a registered sex offender? Yeah, that parole officer, he was able to recognize Rodney from the sketch. At least he did something right after he done cut him loose to travel to another city freely. Dummy. In July of 1979, Rodney was finally arrested and held without bail. Thank God. Okay? Thank God. But his trial was not cut and dry. It was not cute. It was not easy. It was a whole bunch of back and forth, a whole bunch of guilty, not guilty, and guilty again, and appeals, and the whole nine. It was a hot mess. It was just ridiculous. But thank God for the advances in DNA technology and all the samples collected at the crime scenes. They were able to link him to at least 5 of the murders. And in March 2010, he was convicted and sentenced to death. Finally, my goodness, it took y'all long enough. I'm not a detective, let me not ish on y'all, but it took y'all a whole bunch of time to situate this, But we can never be great, and because sometimes the greatness is not us, Rodney would die of a heart attack on July 24th, 2021, at the age of 77, while he was on California's death row. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the story of Rodney James Alcala. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. I, for one, am upset, okay? I'm not upset that he passed away, okay? I'm not. Good for him, right? What upsets me is how long this man moved around freely or lived after he unalived and or hurt all these people. That's what pisses me off. He started hurting people like, okay, that little girl that he assaulted in 1968, he was around 25 years of age when he did that. And then he went on to unalive and hurt many more people before he was finally arrested for good. And at that point, he was around 36 years old. Okay, 36 years old when they finally held him with that bail. That was 36. So he never did get out after that. So you mean to tell me from the time this ninja was 36 years old, he was in y'all's prison system, going through y'all's court system for about 30 years before y'all finally sentenced him? And then he was on death row for about 11 years before he died, and he was still not executed. He died of a freaking heart attack. Whoop-to-do. Seriously? I'm just so mad. I am so mad. I am so upset. Like, do better. I'm saying do better because this was just too recent. This was recent. And that's what makes me mad. Okay? All right. Anyways, that is all I have for you guys today. Let me know what you think down below in the comment section. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. And please don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. And I will see you guys in my next one. But until then, I hope to see you in the comment section. Bye.